right. Hello, everybody. How are you today? It is Larissa, and I'm here today with my Lunch and Learn. Today, I am talking about one key ingredient to reduce anxiety and boost fulfillment. And I think this is a really, really amazing topic because in these times, anxiety is a huge, it's a hot topic. It is really, really big. And I remember my very, very first time being introduced to the whole concept of anxiety. It was not something that I ever recall. It's not something I ever recall really having in my life. It's not a word that I grew up with, right? This is something that has been really thrown around over the past 10, 15 years in excess. Before, when I was younger, it was always depression. So I remember I hired a life coach probably about 10 years ago. And she was also a therapist, but I hired her for some life coaching. And I'm like, wow, she's a therapist. She has this extra knowledge. It's going to be really great. I'm going to get so much value from her. And I remember walking out of the office one day. We had a few sessions, and she told me, she's like, you have anxiety, and I think we should do some therapy about that. And initially, I mean, sometimes you think you have things going on, but I didn't think I had anything that required a label. And the second she labeled me, I walked out of that office and I felt so anxious. Like literally, I didn't think I had anxiety before that. But let me tell you, walking out of that office after she's like, you have anxiety, I had anxiety. And for 2 weeks, I felt completely neurotic. I felt so self-conscious and I was literally anxious. Hello, everyone. So when it came to that, it was a really huge turning point. Okay. And I ended up not working with her anymore. That was probably one of the best decisions I made because within a couple days of deciding not to work with her, that entire anxiety level went down. So flash forward a couple years, I get into the similar scenario. Someone's like, oh, you have anxiety, right? I love these therapists that label, and got anxious, stopped working with them, and I changed everything. And so it really went to show me that what they perceive isn't what it has to be. And I've always been curious. I've always been really curious to learn more, to be more, to do more. And every single time I've taken on a subject, I remember there was this one time I decided to start learning about running, right? And I am not a runner. I never grew up as a runner, but I was a dancer. And part of our dance fundraiser was one of the things that we were supposed to do is raise money. And so we decided to do a 10K run. And so that 10K run got me to fundraise for the dance company, and I learned about running. And I found the more and more I learned about running, the more excited and curious I got about it, right? The more I learned, the more curious I got. Education that is applied is total power. And as I was running, I was training and I was learning more and more. And the more I learned, the more curious I got. And I remember we were running this 10K race, right? It's race day. It's finally time. My goal was to run the 10K in under an hour and actually keep running without walking. And I did that. And I remember that my husband and I did the thing together, and we were standing at the end of it, and someone taps me on the shoulder, and I look around, and it was just completely surprising to me what happened. And that reminds me of another story, right? Yesterday, I had a mastermind meeting with my team. And I have a group call on Monday nights, and one of a smaller group of us meet afterwards to hold an actual mastermind. And this is where we have an opportunity to state what we're working on and state and ask. We're like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is a question or a challenge I have or feedback I need. And so it really gives everyone an opportunity to throw out what their greatest needs are at the time. And it was really, really, I always love our Monday calls, but from the very first ask, it started with a really high energy. And this particular time, halfway through, one of the people was mentioning that she's like, I'm working a lot, business is good, my goal is good, but then something in my personal life isn't working. And so she threw out a question about her personal life, right? Like, how can I boost my intimacy with my partner? And oh my goodness, the ideas just started flowing. And when I really think back about this, it was so exciting because not only are we able to help each other improve our businesses and our lives and our bodies and our minds, but we're really able to have so much fun with it. And when you start to have fun, everything is totally magical. And like, let me tell you, some of the ideas that we came up with were out of this world. They were definitely surprising. And so let's go back and talk about anxiety, right? And how to really reduce that anxiety so you can boast fulfillment in your life. Now, have you ever felt nervous and uncomfortable and wanted to just stop feeling nervous, but you just couldn't? You're like, I just feel nervous. I'm shaking. I feel jittery. I'm just like looking all over the place. I'm not fully present, but I want to be. Maybe you hear voices chattering inside your head. You're having like full-blown conversations going on. And the more you have these conversations, the more these voices chatter, the more worked up you start to get. You get this like tightness in your chest and things in your body just don't feel right. And maybe you see other people out there thriving and you're like, well, yeah, they're just thriving, but they seem to have it together, but is it even sustainable? And could I even do it? And maybe, do I even have the skills to do it? And if I did it, would I even have the capacity to keep it up, right? Like you see these things, but you don't necessarily see it for yourself. You really want it, but you don't see it for yourself, right? These things are possible to shift, right? To get out of this feeling. And there's one real key ingredient that I'm going to share with you that can really dramatically help you reduce your anxiety. And when you do that, you're going to start to notice that things just start to work out for you and you move in the flow. Like things are really, really in the flow, right? When you do this one thing, you're going to notice those voices inside your head, they quiet down. Right? Let me know if these are things that you want, if these are things that are exciting to you. Pop a heart, pop a like, pop a yes in the comments. You're going to see things become more clear and orderly in your life. When there's order in your mind, there's order in your life. And that's a very calming place to be, right? That's when you can get to that place of fulfillment, because when you're nervous and anxious, you can't focus on that. But when you let that quiet down, when you do this one real key ingredient and when you practice it over and over again, everything is going to change. Order is going to happen in your life and mind. And that may not sound sexy, but I promise you the results are going to be phenomenal. You're going to rock your own world, right? So when it comes to anxiety disorders, the history of anxiety disorders is kind of recent, right? The whole term anxiety and claiming it as a mental disorder, that really wasn't in our world until the 19th century. Prior to that, mood disorders have been around since the dawn of time, right? People have noticed things, people have documented it in history, but in different ways, in less formal ways. Often risk factors can include a history of abuse or child abuse, maybe family history of mental disorders and poverty. And those are some of the real common risk factors. But when you boil it down, when you really boil down to it, anxiety is a feeling of unease. It is a feeling of not being at ease, right? You're worried about something, and that could be mild or severe, right? And where you are on the spectrum depends on you and where you are right now. But ultimately, it's when you spend too much time focusing on something and keeping focused on it and replaying a story inside your head over and over again. It's like it goes on loop, it goes on loop, it goes on loop, it goes on loop, it goes on loop. Just like a child, it goes on loop, it goes on loop, it goes on loop, and it doesn't stop. And the more you replay the story, your creativity might come into play, because I know we're all very creative individuals. And the more you allow that creativity to come into play, it's going to exaggerate it and really blow it out of proportion. Contrast to that, fulfillment is the achievement of something desired, something promised or predicted. When you're fulfilled, you're achieving something and moving in a direction of something you actually want. So instead of looping what you don't want, you're focusing on what you do want, right? Let me know if that sounds a little more appealing. Yeah, yes, heck yeah. It sounds phenomenal, right? So focusing on what you want versus what you don't want sounds like a simple concept, sounds like a great idea, but we don't necessarily do it. We understand it in theory, but we don't necessarily practice it. So we have contrast in our lives to teach us lessons and to help us move ahead. And growth is really, really necessary for us as humans. It's human nature for us to grow, to want to be more, to want to do more, to want to have more. And if you think about it, everything you believe is true, and what you focus on expands, right? It's like, I love this book, and I'm looking at the title, and I know when you read this book, it is going to change your life. It is going to transform your life. And it's got an entire chapter on decision. And you're probably wondering, what is this book? Tell me what this book is. But I can see the title, right? I can see the title of this book. But maybe you couldn't because you were looking at it from a different side of things. That's the idea of perception, is really looking at it from one side versus another. Anxiety is focusing on what you want versus what you don't want. And it's still, when you boil it down to the root cause, when you boil it down to the essence, this is the work we do that I do one-on-one with clients, is really find the root cause of things, because it's the same whether it's good or bad. The root cause is going to help you dictate and shift your thinking. That's what we do in the Thinking into Results program. We look for the root cause of things so we can create permanent change and transformative change. And it's based on the law of polarity, right? The law of polarity states that everything has an opposite: good, bad, hot, cold, front, back. And whether you're having anxiety or whether you're focusing on the fulfillment, when you're focusing on the dream and that desire, that's a polarity, right? And so nothing is good, nothing is bad. It is what it is. And it's, where are you choosing to spend your time? So when it comes to anxiety, everyone is going to have feelings of anxiety at some point. And that's actually normal. It's healthy, and you are supposed to have it. Sometimes it sucks when you're there. But let's think about it this way. If I am asking you, let's say, to do a Facebook Live, and you aren't used to seeing yourself on camera, you aren't used to speaking in front of people, you aren't used to collecting your thoughts, you aren't used to doing things, the first time I ask you to do this, chances are you're probably going to have a little anxiety and not feel so good. I did a self-image boot camp a few weeks ago, and the second exercise I asked participants to do was to introduce themselves as them with their goal achieved. And I think there was one person, maybe two, that had actually spoken live on Facebook before in front of a camera. And for everyone else, it was a brand new activity. We had so many people literally step up to the plate and introduce themselves as themselves with their goal achieved. That was a cool thing. And they didn't necessarily get excited about it. They were uncomfortable, but they pushed through. And the pride they had in doing that was so much better. I promise you, if they do it again, they're not going to like it, but they're going to do it. And if they do it again and again, they're going to get used to it and build their neurology to sustain that, right? So you've got to do things in repetition in order to build the neurology to get comfortable with those things that you're looking to do. If you want to eliminate the anxiety, you've got to, just do the work and realize that sometimes anxiety is part of the process. But there's a difference between anxiety with something you're not used to doing until you practice and get comfortable with it versus just literally looping a story inside your head, right? And the more we exacerbate it, the worse it gets. Ultimately, everything you believe is true. And I can guarantee you, there are people that grew up in abusive households. There are people that grew up in absolute poverty with terrible examples surrounding themselves. And they overcame it. They chose to let it go, and they've come up on top. They've transformed their lives, and they said, I choose to believe I am better than this. I choose to believe I have potential. I choose to believe this doesn't have to be my path. This might be the path that so many around me are doing, but this does not have to be my path. And so they made different choices. Look at Oprah. She's phenomenal. And even Bill Clinton. Did you know that he grew up in an abusive household and he became the president of the United States? That's huge, right? There are so many people that have contrast in their lives and they choose to use it as fuel to create something beautiful and create something good. So what can you create that's beautiful and good? When you step away from that place of anxiety, when you choose to step away, when you make a decision to step away from that place of anxiety and into fulfillment, it's not only good for you, it's good for others around you, it's good for the world at large. Like you can't put anything bad. If you put, and easy for her to say, there's nothing good that will come out of putting your energy into something bad. And when you put energy into something good, good will come of it. Put all of your energy into what you want, into that place of fulfillment. So this key ingredient, haven't gotten to it yet. I've talked a lot, but what is this key ingredient? All right. What is this one key ingredient that can help you step away from anxiety into fulfillment? This key ingredient that I've been talking about is decision. It's decision. Something I talk about a lot. It's actually, I have a group of clients. There's a select group of clients that wanted to read an article on decision for 30 days in a row. We have a separate WhatsApp group and we're holding each other accountable and reporting that we're really studying this topic for an entire month because it's so important. You see, when you avoid making decisions, it's like pouring grease down the drain, wondering if it's going to stay unclogged. It's like, let's pour some grease down the drain and then pour cold water in it. Let's do that again. And then eventually that drain is going to get clogged and you're not going to be able to use it. It's going to fill up and things are going to implode. Things are going to get messy and discombobulated in your life. So you need to shift from a place of anxiety to fulfillment. And how you do anything is how you do everything. So when you make a decision in one area of your life, other things will follow suit. And you'll see yourself start to live in the flow faster and better than ever before. Right? When you make decisions, any decisions, you're going to see everything in your life change. Right? You're going to start to see your personal life change. You're going to start to see your health change. You're going to start to see your relationship change. You're going to see better decisions and more progress in your business because how you do anything is how you do everything. And decision making is something you can learn to do and practice over time. And when you do, you're going to notice that things just start to fall into place. You're going to find that the people, the resources, the money, whatever you need for any decision you make are going to happen after you make the decision. But sometimes we think, well, I want to buy that car, but I don't have the money. So let me save the money and then decide on what car I want. Or I want to go take a course, but I don't have the money. So let me get the money and then I'll just see if I have an extra in my bank account, right? I'm so busy right now with work. So let me just finish all my projects and then I'll take this course that's going to move me forward in my career, right? You're going to have excuses. Life is going to get in the way, but until you make a committed decision, those excuses are not going to fall out of the way and the solutions aren't going to come to you. The very first step in anything is decision. And you decided to show up here today, right? You are here today because you made a decision. And that's phenomenal. That's amazing. And ultimately, you can make decisions by default or by design, right? Sometimes we make decisions. We're like scrolling our phone and it's like, oh, half an hour later, you're still scrolling your phone. That's kind of by default. Or you go to your email, you think of something, you think of something else, you think of something else, and you make these decisions unconsciously. So you want to start making decisions by design. You want to live your life by design, not by default, because that's living your life on purpose. So how do you make better decisions, right? How do you make better decisions? Yes, I think decisions are key. Maya's like, oh yes, decision, absolutely. So start small and start recognizing the decisions you are making. Are you having coffee or tea? Are you going to drink water or soda water? Are you going to wear sweatpants or are you going to dress up working from home today? What color are you going to wear? These are little decisions you don't think about, but they're decisions. Recognize yourself for those little things that you're making. If you think you are a terrible decision maker, right? I guarantee you are making some decisions. Then there's other decisions that are more challenging. And the only way you can get better at them is by practicing. Ask yourself, what's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? And what's the most likely scenario? You could do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. You count yourself 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Decide. Go with your gut. It is usually correct. Really bring the idea of decision making into your life and learn about it, because what you focus on expands. Like I mentioned the article that my clients are reading. I'm happy to share it with you. If you want access to this article that my clients are reading on decision, I'm happy to share it with you. Drop a yes, I want the article in the comments. Send me decision, or even direct message me. Whatever you want. I'm happy to share that article with you, because I promise you, reading this article, and not just reading it once, but like actually studying it for a week, for a month, for 3 months, if that's what you need, is going to make a tremendous difference in your life. What you focus on expands. Bring the energy of what you want into your life. Bring the energy of making decisions into your life, right? The more you do, the better it's going to be. You can make a list of all the outstanding decisions you've made, or that you have to make, that you've committed to, and commit to actually making a decision. If not today, decide when you're going to make the decisions that you have to make. Make a big list. I did this. I had like a couple pages full of decisions that I had outstanding, and I was like, maybe that's why a few things weren't working out in my life, right? When things aren't working out, when you have anxiety, when you have chaos, and things aren't in the flow, probably because you're not making decisions. And if you do this one thing, I can assure you it will make a huge difference in your life. So drop a link in the comments, DM me if you want access to this article, because this article, like I said, it is so key. Read it once, but if you're really serious, read it every day. Read it every day for a week. Read it every day for a month, however long you need, because that's going to totally get you further ahead, right? One of the things that I was really looking at yesterday on that client call that I was telling you about is to have more fun, right? One of the things I want to do, our theme in our group call was really leaving people with an impression of increase. And my question to my clients was, how can I leave you with an impression of increase? And I wanted to make things more fun for them, more meaningful for them. And I'd never really asked that question directly to them before. And so that was what I had in mind. And throughout the call, this was the intention I was setting. And we had so much fun. When this client was talking about how to boost her intimacy, we came up with wild ideas, from lingerie to sexy heels to some very good resources to reference for her to make her relationship more meaningful and more intimate with her partner, and so she could have more fun. And not only was it good for her, but it was amazing for everyone else on the call, because everyone got benefit and we all got into a spirit of having a good time and laughing and just having something unexpected come into our evening pretty late at night. It was one of our most fun calls we've had, but we got into the spirit of it. It was so exciting. And I know, like, that woman that tapped me on the shoulder when I was running that 10K race, right? She tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and this was actually a woman that had been following us throughout the entire race. And I had an eye on her, and she was super cute. She was so adorable. She must have been about 70. And she told me, she's like, I watched you and your husband throughout the race, and you were my pace keepers. I had so much fun running this race, and it was the most fun race I'd had. And it was my curiosity in running, my curiosity in doing a better job, my curiosity in having a good time that led to that beautiful experience, not only for me, but for somebody else. It made a complete difference in her day and probably her week. And I know that whenever it comes to a place of being labeled, right? When I was seeing those therapists and I immediately stopped seeing them, like I said, within 2 weeks, I didn't have any kind of anxiety. However, I feel so happy and grateful that I had those experiences, that I had that contrast, because I'd never really had that kind of experience or that kind of drama before. Right? Often we are labeled and we are diagnosed, and I've seen it in other people, but I never had to go through those feelings. And going through those feelings, I feel so blessed. I didn't like it at the time, but I feel so blessed because I can relate to so many more people now. I can understand what they're going through. And that feeling of anxiety also led me to really start shifting my perspective on life, to really look for the beauty in life and look for the contrast in things, the good things that I want, and start focusing on that fulfillment, start focusing on the good. And that anxiety led to that place of excitement. It led to me being so excited and passionate about the work I do now. And that happened so long ago, but it was something that kept staying with me throughout my entire life. So I hope you've gotten some really, really fantastic benefit. Yes, Laura has read the decision article many, many times. I know we've definitely read it. Several of you on here right now have read it. So if you don't have it yet and you want it, direct message me or pop something in the comments and let me know that you want me to send you this decision article. It is genius. It will change your life. And it is the one big thing that will help you go from that place of anxiety to fulfillment. So with that, you have yourself a fantastic day. Have yourself a beautiful day and live in spirit. Live in the best possible spirit you can, because you are put on this earth to do beautiful and magical things in this world. And that is what you're here for. That's why you're here today. You are not here by accident. You are here by design. So keep living that life by design, keep making decisions, and go from anxiety to fulfillment. Thanks, everyone.